Okay, let's all say it. I can't believe it's already halfway through August. So it's time to go over what I've read in the month so far. Put my stack, if you can see my stack, in reverse order of how I finished the books, and it seems like a lot, and I guess it is. I've really only been reading. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time reading, and I've been kind of back and forth with enjoying it, not enjoying it. We'll talk about it. Let's get into the books. So this book is one that I've mentioned a number of times because it took me a while to read it. This is Medicine Woman by Lucy H. Pierce. This is about a woman with chronic illness, and she's looking at it in context of healthcare and societal expectations and historical history of medicine kind of thing, treatment of women. This was written in 2018. I took some notes because it took me so long to read, mainly because, I don't know if other folks who live with chronic illness are similar, that when you have a chronic illness, you don't want to just read straight through because you're dealing with it on a daily basis. So I would take a couple of chapters at a time and then put it down and read something else. This book, Lucy Pierce's book, looks at the historical situation for women who had these, quote, invisible illnesses. I would argue that not all of them. A lot of times the symptoms were visible if you believed it. And if they're invisible because they are not known about, they're not seen on any of our current healthcare, medical, diagnostic measures. Most of that we have as a result of research on white males. And so those are just some things to take into consideration when you're reading this. And that's what Lucy Pierce brings, a lot of that to the forefront for the reader. And also, she takes a look at Western medicine versus Eastern medicine. And the way that it's set up has some quotes from women who experience chronic illness. It has some of Lucy's personal writing related to her chronic illness. And then it has questions that you as a reader could journal on or just think about. So I think this would be a good place for women who experience chronic health issues, invisible illnesses, any kind of disbelief by doctors, gaslighting, those type of things. I think it would also be helpful for anyone who wants to know more about what women face in the medical community. So I do recommend this. I don't remember. I think I gave it a 4-star, 3.5 stars, or something like that. I should write down my star ratings and I don't remember them. So the next thing to talk about, let's do it this way. I was going to go in order, but let's talk about it in the sense of readathons, because I did, which I'll link below, I did Catch Up-a-thon, which is hosted by Krista and Books and Jams and Amy at Amy's Bookish Life. And it's basically a readathon for 2 weeks, 14 days, and it's focused on Book of the Month books to catch up on your Book of the Month books. But you could also, if you don't have Book of the Month, or even if you are caught up or don't want to read your Book of the Month, you could read anything off your shelves. I read one book that I plan to read, and that was because it was a buddy read. And did I really read it? We'll talk about that in a second. I also, several of these met prompts for Deck of TBR-a-thon, which is still going on, which is hosted by Chloe at Always Booked and Bekah at Bekah's Books and Bujo. I'll link all the information below. Anyway, onto the books, Michelle. I read Hereafter by Amy Lynn. This is a memoir about Amy losing her husband in just a random health issue happened. He was young, 32 years old, and talks about Amy's grief going through the process. I thought it was really well done. It's told in vignettes, so it's a pretty quick read. I listened to the audiobook, which is narrated by Amy. So I also think that would be a great way to consume it, because I did enjoy it that way. Enjoy is kind of a weird word to use, or way to describe a memoir on grief. It's a hard read. It's a lot of gut punches, a lot of real emotion that are told in snippets. And part of what I liked about them being told in snippets was because you don't need extra language around it. You just, here's what happened, here's how it felt. Do you need anything around it? So one of the passages that I marked, Amy Lynn writes, "I have yet to realize silence only isolates the bereaved even more than death already has." And she's talking about connecting with others who have experienced similar losses, being the one to reach out when you're the grieving person. Grief is not talked about a lot, and a lot of times, from my experience, people don't know what to say to you, so they don't say anything at all, and that can be even more isolating. And so this is a great book for anyone who's dealing with grief, and everyone experiences grief differently. So I think even if you are someone who hasn't experienced a recent loss, this would be a great read, because we need to talk about grief more, and we need to talk about how to interact with people who are grieving. So this was, pretty sure I gave this 4 or 5 stars. The next one I picked up was Paper Names by Susie Lowe. This was a buddy read with my friend Andy, and let me tell you what it's about. So we've got, what was his name? Tony. Tony is a Chinese immigrant who was an engineer in China, comes to the US and is a doorman in a high-priced Manhattan apartment building. His daughter, when we first meet her, she's young. She's like 9, I think. Tammy. And we also meet Oliver, who is one of the tenants of the apartment building that Tony works at. And we see a lot of the interaction between Tammy and her dad. She is more American, being raised with American beliefs and in American society and with American friends. And Tony has ideas for what she should be and should do. There is something happens, and a violent act happens, and Oliver, the tenant, who is this rich guy that, does it say what he is? He is a lawyer. That's right. He is a lawyer, and he ends up giving Tammy piano lessons after this violent act happens. And it was about that point that I started to get an ick kind of feeling from Oliver, and I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't shake it. Then we jump forward to Tammy's a relationship she has in her early 20s and her work life. It was just very odd jumping from one point to the other. I was getting weird vibes from Oliver. It was just strange. And yeah, I ended up DNFing this, which I feel really bad because I try to at least plow through buddy reads. And I just didn't have it in me this month. And Andy was, as usual, very understanding about it. I think she rated it pretty low anyway. I think she finished it and she rated it pretty low. So yeah, this wasn't for me. I then, for Catch-Up-A-Thon and for Deck of TBR, read The Women by Kristen Hanna. This is about Frankie, who is a nurse, and she goes to serve in the military in Vietnam. And we follow her through all of that trauma, and then as she comes back, kind of what her life looks like as someone with PTSD, and just her relationships with her family, how they change, and her relationships with her friends. It's a very good read. It was I do remember this one. It's a 5-star. It was very, as Kristen Hanna is, it was very hard-hitting, heart-wrenching, and yeah, it kind of made me a little slumpy, but I did also read this for a vlog that I'll link below. I read several books, 3 books that Bekah over at Bekah Books and Bujo loves, and this was one of them. And like I said, I loved it. It's a hard read. As Kristen Hanna just writes so beautifully and so realistically that it hits all the emotions. This also counted for Big Book Summer Challenge. which I will also link below. Sue Jackson is leading that. This book was over, I think it was like 470, 471, something like that. I listened to the audiobook. It's narrated by Julia Whalen, and she does amazing as a narrator as well. So then the one I just finished at the end of Catch-Up-a-thon, I went over a little bit, is Karen Slaughter's Girl Forgotten. This was also my deck of TBR for Finish a Series. This is the second book in the Andrea Oliver series, I guess. I don't know if that's what they're calling it. The first was Pieces of Her, which I really enjoyed. Pieces of Her, I felt like Girl Forgotten, it definitely picks up some of the storylines for Andrea and her relationship with her mom and with another FBI agent. But this is as Andrea is graduating from the FBI Academy and being put out on her first case. I kind of felt like this didn't move as fast. I felt more like thrillery, mystery, fast paced with the first book, Pieces of Her. But yeah, overall, I think I rated it 3.5, 4 stars. And if Karen Slaughter comes out with more, which she probably will, because she's written many, and she writes some good series, that I will pick up the next one as well. All right, so that was all the book of the month that I read. For the vlog that I mentioned, reading books that Bekah at Bekah Books and Bujo loves, I also started reading Kristen Hanna Winter Garden. This I DNF'd for my own mental health, because it hit really close to home with death of a parent and caregiving for an aging parent as well. But you can definitely check out my vlog for more thoughts on that. For that vlog, I also read Beach Read by Emily Henry. This was also a book club book. I loved this. This is, we've got Gus in January. Gus writes literary fiction. January writes romance. They know each other from college and end up living next to each other for a little while. And they're both kind of dealing with writer's block, and so they kind of have a little game where they switch genres and try and write each other's books or something like that. I just really liked it. It was a really sweet read. I probably should have read this after I read all the Kristen Hanna for a palate cleanser, but I didn't. I read it before that. This was my first Emily Henry, and it was a 5-star, and it will not be my last Emily Henry, but you can find out more about my thoughts in the vlog. And then the last book I read for that vlog was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, and I don't know why it took me so long to read this, but it did. I just now read this for the first time. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 4-star. It was kind of slow in parts, but overall, typical Margaret Atwood, dystopian, and sometimes hitting too close to home for reality. Again, more thoughts in that vlog. Go check it out. And then the other 2 books that I finished were 2 library books. So one is No Matter the Distance by Cindy Baldwin. This is a middle grade, and it is written by a woman with cystic fibrosis, and the main character in the book, Penny, has cystic fibrosis, and it is told in verse, and also they had some pictures in here, I think. Or am I making that up? Nope, there were some pictures in here. And also just kind of some plays with format as well. So Penny is in the summer of, I don't remember what grade she's in, but it's over summer break. Her and her sister are, they live right off a river, and they see a dolphin in the river. And they think it's really cool. And their father basically knows, hey, there shouldn't be a dolphin in the river, kind of thing. And so we follow that experience of investigating what's going on. Also see a lot of the day-to-day of what Penny deals with cystic fibrosis. We also meet her best friend, who lives somewhere close by. I really enjoyed the sister relationship. I enjoyed just the whole family relationship. The parents like each other. The parents are great with the kids. There's no drama there. And that's something I really enjoyed. I have a friend who has cystic fibrosis, and this is very realistic of what I know she deals with. And I think that you can definitely appreciate and see that it is written by someone who knows what they're talking about. And so Cindy Baldwin uses her own experience to kind of show what's involved, from morning breathing treatments to limitations for activity to worries about chest infections and how you're gonna get medicine in your body, and just all those type of things are talked about in this, and I highly recommend it. The last one I finished just the other night is The Premonition by Banana Yoshimoto, translated from the Japanese by Asa Yonedo. And this follows Yayoi, who is a 19-year-old. She comes from a family, a mom, a dad, and a brother. And when it opens, we see her kind of running away to her aunt's house. And it's about family secrets. There's a lot of whispers about the aunt who lives alone in this house that's kind of falling apart. And Yayoi is trying to figure out who is who and how she fits into the family. And she has abilities, as the title suggests. She can sense things. And yeah, it was really interesting. I liked the relationship between Yayoi and her aunt. It definitely got weird. The relationship between Yayoi and her brother, and yeah, I think I gave it like a 3.5 star, but I want to read more from Banana Yoshimoto. For as short as this is, it was 130 pages, and there was a lot that happened, but I didn't feel like there was maybe like one storyline too many in this, but it was still a good read, and I want to check out more from this author. So those are the books that I've read so far in August. The ones that I'm working on, I'm slowing down my reading. Mainly because I was feeling kind of overwhelmed. Kristen Hannah hangover from the women, and just not as much in the mood to read. It happens. It happens to all of us. So I am reading Missing Persons or Grandmother's Secret by Claire Willis. I talked about this in my NetGalley video. This is about the mother and baby homes in Ireland and Claire Willis's family's connection to them. It also is talking about kind of the historical context and religious context of the mother and baby homes that really didn't stop being a thing until the 1990s. And a lot of what came out about the mother and baby homes was after a mass grave was found, which is all stuff, historical information that you can find out. But it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm taking a lot of notes. I'm gonna do a full review when I'm done with it. And then a sneak peek to a vlog that's coming up. I am reading Empire Falls by Richard Russo. This is one of my 12 and 24 books. It also would qualify as for the Big Book Summer Challenge. It is 483 pages. I am reading and listening to the audiobook. That's how I get through the big books the best, so that if I'm doing dishes, I can listen to it or read it if I'm interested in reading a physical read. So that's all I'm reading right now. And it feels okay. It feels okay. I hope you all are having a great reading month, and let me know in the comments if you've had any 5 stars yet. Any books that I've talked about that you've read, let me know in the comments. Any books you're interested in, and leave me a fall leaf in the comments if you have nothing else to comment on, because I am looking forward to fall. It is mid-August, it is 90+ degrees, and I am ready for fall. Anybody else? Anybody? Yeah. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.